President Trump also launched an attack at Senator Elizabeth Warren, a potential 2020 rival, and appeared to mock the Me Too movement while doing so.
Let's say I'm debating Pocahontas, right? I promise you I'll do this. I will take, you know those little kits they sell on television for $2? Learn your heritage. And in the middle of the debate, when she proclaims that she's of Indian heritage, because her mother said she has high cheekbones, we will take that little kit and say, but we have to do it gently. Because we're in the Me Too generation, so we have to be very gentle. And we will very gently take that kit and we will slowly toss it, hoping it doesn't hit her and injure her arm, even though it only weighs probably 2 ounces. And we will say, I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian, you know. And let's see what she does, right?
So Senator Warren responded last night on Twitter, writing, "Hey, Donald Trump, while you obsess over my genes, your administration is conducting DNA tests on little kids because you ripped them from their mamas and you were too incompetent to reunite them in time to meet a court order. Maybe you should focus on fixing the lives you're destroying." So
wow,
that, obviously, Jonathan, the Pocahontas line is one of the greatest hits, if we call it a rock concert, that people are going to see. But the way he talked about the Me Too movement, which is over the last year or so is a collection of women who've gone through horrific things in their lives, truly horrific things, and had the courage to step forward. I know nothing matters to him. I know words don't matter, and everything is sort of like skywriting and evaporates after he says it. He doesn't worry about the consequences. But we saw in the background some eyes rolling. If you look at that clip, is there anything in here where you could say that's a bridge too far? Does he care?
Between the campaign and then the rallies he's held since taking office, I've been to 100 more of these, and there's still, it almost surprises me that I can still be surprised. Yeah. And right. This was one of those moments. I mean, yes, the attack on Elizabeth Warren for the Pocahontas thing, that is, as you said, that's in the repertoire. He breaks that out most nights. But to go to the Me Too movement, which, of course, as you just said, has meant so much to so many people.
Well, but this is also Donald Trump. What about his background?
That's right. And Donald Trump is someone who has been accused of sexual assault. We have heard, on the Access Hollywood tape, brag about grabbing women without their consent.
But this also comes. He has bragged. Let's make no mistake about it. He has bragged. It is on tape. About sexually assaulting women.
This also comes on the same day that the hire of Bill Shine becomes official. Bill Shine, who was ousted from Fox News for helping cover up these allegations of harassment and so on. But this is someone, he viewed it as a punchline. He made a joke of it. And as Senator Warren pointed out, to have it when DNA testing is so, in the news right now because his administration has botched this scenario at the border, separating children from their families and now having to use DNA to try to reunite them.
I wonder why.
Talking about that in the next block.
I do wonder why people that used to call themselves conservatives, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, people who used to claim to be Republicans, but are not even close. I guess they never were. I guess it's about being an anti-liberal instead of being a conservative. I wonder why people like that just sit back and while Donald Trump is mocking John McCain, while Donald Trump is mocking George H.W. Bush, after all they've given to this country and after all those people and other Republicans, just sit back and say nothing. It's so funny. Some of these same people would attack me in real time after I said, like, George W. Bush lost the first presidential debate. Laura Ingraham up the next day slamming me. How dare you say that about George W. Bush?
Oh, my God. And then
Sean Hannity attacking me for going after George W. Bush. How dare you attack the President of the United States, you left-winger? When did you become a liberal? No, I'm not. See, it doesn't matter who's in power with them. They're like Alan Dershowitz. They're like moths that go to the flame. So if George W. Bush is President of the United States, they attack anybody like me who was attacking George W. Bush for spending too much money, for running a deep debt. I remember Mitt Romney I said, like, around Labor Day in 2012 that Mitt Romney was going to lose the election. They had a horrible campaign. Get absolutely castigated. Mika can tell you my Twitter feed just ran nonstop, and it was a lot of these same stooges that would just sit there to, how dare you attack Mitt Romney? And then, boy, do they turn on it. So they're not conservatives. They're all about power. All you have to do is just look and see. The people that they bowed and scraped to before, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, John McCain. It's all on tapes, by the way. I just want to let you know. It's all on tapes. It's all in the transcripts. Yeah. Just like with me, everything I've ever said, all on tape, all in the transcripts. So the very people that were their Alan Dershowitzes on talk radio, protecting the powerful, even when it was indefensible. Now they're sitting there reveling at these two men as they lay dying.
Well,
what does that say? What are they? Because do you call them? They're not. We know they're not conservatives. There's nothing conservative about Donald Trump.
I guess this is where the Republican Party is.
They're just anti-liberal? Is it just about trolling liberals and not having an agenda of your own? Or is it just about power?
It's definitely about power. They also have something that they've never had before, a pliable president. He just gets molded around into whatever they're looking for, and they love that. They love that they could just have another kind of TV star, pliable issue. They just go and speak to him, and he kind of changes his position.
But is the cost of that cheering on the mocking of an American hero who gave his all in Vietnam while Donald Trump had 5 deferments, and on the day he graduated from Penn, I think 40 Americans died in Vietnam. Is that the cost of that? I don't think the cost is that high. I don't think you have to mock a man who is dying of brain cancer. I don't think you have to mock George H.W. Bush, a man who gave us everything he had, from being shot down in World War II to being there when the Berlin Wall collapsed.
They take their cues from the president. This is Team Red versus Team Blue. Red not necessarily as Republican, but just as Trump. And that if Donald Trump, John McCain, George H.W. Bush, in that case, George Bush and Jeb Bush, and that's why this is all linked, because it feels like they never supported him. He views them as the enemy. And therefore, no matter what physical state they may be in, no matter how decorated their resume may be, they oppose him, he will take their shots, and then others in the media will follow his lead.
You know, what's interesting is that you say Team Red versus Team Blue. I had a good friend say on Twitter the other day, you know, Joe and I are good friends, and he's always been a good friend of mine. We're just on opposite ends of the political spectrum. And because I'm a good friend, I didn't write back and say, oh, have you become a liberal? Because when people come up to me and say, oh, I don't like your... I said, oh, I'm sorry, when did you become a liberal? Because, again, transcripts are forever. I went back just to make sure. Cleaning up my house, boxing things up, making a move, and I found some 1994 literature. It's very shocking how much I've changed since 1994. Fight to balance the budget. Fight to reform entitlements. Fight for a stronger military. Fight to cut, you know, of course, abolish department agencies, excessive department agencies. It's the same thing. An obsession on small government, an obsession on devolving power from Washington to the states, an obsession on all the things that Donald Trump's not obsessed on. Biggest spending bill in the history of the planet. And they sit there and they scrape and bow to it. You got a guy who's trying to expand the powers of the presidency in an unprecedented way, something that does violence to Madison's view of checks and balances, something that we as conservatives always talked about on the campaign trail. But they just sit back and they bow and scrape. They have no agenda but bowing to Donald Trump. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear them tell us what is their consistent conservative agenda other than not liking Nancy Pelosi? Because that's not an agenda. That's not what takes us forward into the 21st century. And they're attacking NATO, he's attacking Germany, he's attacking England, he's attacked Great Britain, he's attacking all of our friends, and he's embracing Vladimir Putin, a Russian who has tried, according to Donald Trump's 4 intel chiefs, to undermine American democracy, and it has been an ongoing project by his government since 2014. You don't believe me, fellas? Ask Sean Hannity. Why don't you see what Dan Coates said about it? Laura Ingraham, why don't you see what Mike Pompeo said about it? Why don't you ask what the FBI director said about it? Why don't you ask what all of Donald Trump's appointed intel chiefs said about it? Vladimir Putin is trying to subvert American democracy. Their words to the Senate. And yet Donald Trump said, what did he say last night? There's nothing wrong with Putin.
It says Putin is fine.
We're fine.
Putin is fine. I don't know. I'm still a conservative that kind of takes it personally when Russia tries to subvert our democracy. But I guess,
I think at this
that
point
makes
it's
me on the
all
other
Americans.
team. Oh, by the way, I support free trade, too.
So we showed you Elizabeth Warren's response to Trump's attack against her, bringing up what his policy of separating families has done to people's lives. Still ahead, we're going to get to the latest on the effects of his policy. We'll let you see it. Some families finally reunited after days, weeks, months apart. This little girl, she's 8. She hadn't seen her mom in 55 days.
Boy, this was heartbreaking.
And there are new numbers of just how many children were separated from their parents at the U.S. border. There are children waiting to see their mothers or fathers. There are mothers waiting to see their babies. And no word yet on exactly how that's going to happen. Plus, Michael Cohen has a new attorney
Lanny.
who happens to be former special counsel to President Bill Clinton.
Didn't see that one coming.
As Ari Melber put it on Twitter yesterday, we just hit the point in the plot where Donald Trump's top attorney is hiring Hillary Clinton's top attorney. You're watching Morning Joe. We'll be right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.